Hello, welcome to PeopleMetrics Live. I am Elizabeth Foley, Vice President of Business Operations at PeopleMetrics. Today, we're discussing the power of custom research panels. And our featured speakers today are Sean McDade, founder and CEO of PeopleMetrics, and Marisa Glowac, Vice President of Research at PeopleMetrics. Take it away, Sean.
Hello, thank you, Elizabeth. It's great to be here today. Hello, Marisa. It's great to have you.
Hi, Sean. Thank you. It's great to be here.
We're going to be talking about one of our favorite topics, custom research panels, sometimes known as customer advisory boards, right? We've called it customer advisory boards, custom research panels, etc. And, excited to have you on because you've been working with these for, quite a while. And we'll be talking about a few parts of them just in a minute. So welcome.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a presentation I went over with, I think it was at TMRE a few months ago. And I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to share it. Can we all see that now? We can see that? Great. All right, so this is us. Hello, everybody. It's Marisa and I. And what we learned today? Challenges on today's online panels, which are, the panels that you go out and buy respondents from, and why we think custom research panels is a real viable alternative to this. We'll talk about what they are and some advantages of them. Does that sound? How does that sound? Good.
Good.
All right. So Marisa, you know this. When we go out and buy sample from one of the many online panel providers, there's a lot of challenges. And I have just a couple of recent stats. Like somebody did this experiment, right? And they sent a 10-minute survey to 5 of the 10 largest panel providers. And found that almost half was poor quality. And what's poor quality? They reported spending 16 times more than reality on medical expenses, for example. So the quality of the data you're getting sometimes from these online panel providers make the research suspect in some ways, right? And here's another example. There was a concept presented with 203 words, and it was read in 11 seconds by some people in these panels versus 80 seconds for those who are in the study. So clearly someone can't read a 203-word concept in 11 seconds, right? So people are just trying to get it done, right, Marisa? They're looking to get the incentive or whatever it is, and they're not giving good results, right? Another crazy thing, right? 62% strongly agree the U.S. should have no limits on immigration, which we know isn't what's going on in the country versus 28% in the study. There's just all of these examples. And then 70% of them said that they should limit immigration we accept each year. So they're giving contradictory answers. They're not, the issue is they're just not reading it. And this is my favorite. Almost 4 out of 10 indicated familiarity with brands that don't exist. Yeah. When you look at that, Marisa, what comes to mind? This is totally an issue, right? With these panels.
Absolutely. And I think it's something we've always been dealing with, but it's definitely become more of a problem, I'd say, in the past 3 to 5 years. And definitely something, we have to look at very closely when we're using some sort of outside panel partner or panel vendor. And we do typically, throw out 30 to 40% of the respondents that come through. So it's something we have to pay close attention to. And, we try to build in, as I'm sure most research partners do, all kinds of checks and balances, but still people are tricky. People are tricky. They want to get through. They want to get their rewards. They could be bots. I think even with with AI becoming popular and increasingly, something that's out there, that's going to make this even more challenging, I think.
Definitely. And that goes to show, you just said, bots. Some poor quality respondents are not real, just like you said, right? Yeah. Here's a chart showing that, There's hackers, people out of the country, known bots, just a lot of problems with panel providers. And it's not to say that you never use them. And we have checks and balances, as you said, to make sure the ultimate quality is there. But it's a lot of work. And there's some advantages to going into a different direction. And that's what we call custom research panels. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And Marisa, why don't you here's just an example. Here's some kind of high level pieces to it, but you've done so many custom research panels. Why don't you just tell me kind of what they are and why do you think they're valuable to clients?
Yeah, well, I think at the most basic level, a custom research panel is what it says it is. It's custom. So I think that's one of the huge benefits is, it can be whatever you're looking for it to be, and it's of your creation. You figure out who you want to be on the panel, what do you want to do with the panel, how long you would like the panel, like a set period of time. So I think all of those are really important. Yeah.
Right. So instead of relying on a third party to provide you with respondents when you need them, what a custom research panel is, right, is recruiting them up front, keeping them in a panel for a certain amount of time. Like it's usually like 6 or 12 months, right? Or so for a panel.
Yeah, I'd say that's typically the best because you want to have, if you're going to the trouble to recruit and form a custom panel, you want to make sure you have, you're putting all that time and effort into recruiting them. So you at least want to do it for 6 months, right? To get the most value out of it. And then a year is ideal because then you have them for that much longer. And as you know, we've had custom research panels that we've formed that just keep going and going because of the
Right.
success out there and how much value our clients have seen in that model.
And Marisa, you said it's custom and proprietary, but the word vetted is really important too. So the word vetted means that we're avoiding some of this 4 out of 10 we have to throw out, like what you just mentioned, when we would go out to outside sample and panel sources.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say one of the other keys to this, as you said, it's vetted. So it's we're taking a long time in the recruiting. Well, not a long time, but we're taking a lot of attention to detail in the recruiting process. We're making sure we're recruiting real people, humans, and also, that they are really who they say they are. They're qualified. We've checked them on LinkedIn. We've spoken to them.
Yes.
A number of processes in place that really make sure that they're good quality. So in the end, we want good quality panelists who give good quality, thoughtful responses to research.
Right. And this next slide just talks exactly about this, right? They're vetted, they're recruited, they're checked and double checked. Like you said, you're talking to them on LinkedIn, or you're connecting with them on LinkedIn. You're actually talking to them at times. And they can be used for kind of whatever market research study that you happen to have, right? So here's some examples of them, but we've used them for just about everything, right? From NPS studies to market landscape to concept testing and message testing and other use cases.
Yeah, I'd say again, it goes back to what does the client want to get out of the research? What do they want to get? What are they looking to learn? And it could be different things at different times. That's the great thing about the panel. It's yours. You can do whatever you want with it, with some boundaries and expectations. But yeah, we've used it, for qualitative, quantitative work. I think as long as the important piece is you set expectations with those on the panel first as to some of the parameters, but then it's really up to you to get what you want out of the panel and, use it like you said. We've done a lot of concept testing, a lot of product testing, a lot of message testing, just insights work across the board.
Marisa, what kind of size do these panels typically land? Like how big of a panel? What's the smallest one would you recommend, and how big can they get?
Yeah, I mean, so we've seen them range anywhere from 50 people up to a couple thousand. And again, I hate to say, hey, it goes back to what you want to get out of the research. But a little bit it does. If you're looking to do work that's, maybe a little bit more directional, qualitative, intimate, you've got maybe a smaller group that you're doing
Right.
qualitative work with, and maybe it's some focus groups and things like that. And you could do that with a smaller group of, a smaller number of panelists. But if you're looking to do a lot of, I'd say a lot of quantitative work, particularly where you want to be doing a lot of analyses by different groups. So it's the thing,
Yeah.
it's your panel, you can recruit who you want, and this can be targeted at, hey, I'd like the majority of people to live in the West, or I need a number of people that are selling this type of product or are buying this type of product. Then you're looking at just those people, or you're looking at, hey, I need that segment within my population. And then if you do that, you're looking at a larger size panel, because you really, then you need to want to have certain numbers, and not everyone's going to participate in everything. So you've got a little extra, you got some extra people recruited there. And that's why you'd have like a larger size panel into the thousands probably. And also the number of, the episodes, or the kind of the cadence of the research, right? If you're doing more research, you don't want to be asking people all the time. Particularly with some of the work we do, as you know, is business to business. And so we don't want to be bugging people all the time. With more consumer work, you might be able to get away with a little bit more of a faster cadence, but I think you always want to be respectful of people's time, and you don't want to be asking them to do surveys all the time, or there's fatigue. So I think, again, if you're doing more research, the type of thing where you want to be doing more research, you have more questions, then you'd want to have a bigger panel, bigger size
So
panel.
Marissa, you touched on a few of these key decisions already, like how do you vet? We've identified some ways, the different methodologies that you may employ, but these first two are pretty interesting, right? Like sponsor identified. So this is a key decision, right, in a custom research panel.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that plays into, you've got pros and cons on both sides of that. And it's up to the sponsor to figure out, again, what's most important to them and what they want to do with the research. And I'd say, if you'd want to do a sponsor identified panel, a branded panel, you've got some great pros there of, there's also some of a, a bit of a halo effect to your brand. So if you're going out there, and we've seen this with some of our clients really well, if you're going out there, if you're creating a custom panel, you're asking your customers or your prospects or whoever, and you're doing a really good job, you're showing interest,
Right.
and so, you're showing interest in them, they see that you care, that goes a long way. And it also has like a ripple effect with, the panelists like that, they've given us feedback to that effect. So I think that is a huge pro of sponsor identified. Also sponsor identified makes it easier to recruit.
Yes.
Much easier to recruit. So,
Much easier to recruit. Yes.
yeah, it's on behalf of someone, it gives it legitimacy. Oftentimes the client will, even give send a first initial notification of the, a panel. So then it gives you even more legitimacy. This is real, this is happening, we want you to be part of it. It's almost an honor to be a part of it. So there are a number of pros there. And then of course, on the flip side, if you want to do something that's, you really want to make sure everything's completely unbiased, then
Yep.
you lean towards an unbranded panel, an unbranded panel.
Right. And for if you're going to have prospects and customers all together, then an unbranded, I think, makes a lot of sense because it is a true kind of market read on things.
Yes.
Right. So that's sort of a choice that you need to make. But I agree. Like I've seen so many of these be where the customer being part of this panel, especially in a B2B context where relationships are so important, it's almost like a touch point or a piece of the experience for them, right? As being a customer.
It really is.
Of these.
Exactly.
It's an honor. Some of them look at it as an honor, and it's a way to deepen if you're in a B2B business. Like I'm, of course, we may be a little biased, but any B2B business should have a custom research if you're doing research. Like, because first of all, they're hard to recruit. Second of all, why would you want to re-recruit every time, especially if you're getting feedback and needing to get answers on certain questions all the time? You have this group at your beck and call whenever you want, and you can develop a stronger bond with all those people too. It's like it's many wins within one.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we do tend to do is we tend to share back if the client's comfortable and if this is something I want to do, share back some of the learnings at a high level and also the actions taken on insights learned from the panels. And yeah, people love that. They really do. They love to hear that. They love to see that, hey, someone's listening and they're actually, a company's taking action based on what.
Exactly. Right. It's not like I'm not giving feedback into this black box or something and I'm never going to hear back. It's truly people talk a lot about feedback loops, but they don't happen a lot, frankly, in a lot of B2B situations. But this is an example of one that it really does. It's great. So let's go over some advantages. I think we've touched on some of them, Marisa, but for the audience, I want them to have like some what are some real advantages? And I think this is one that we've already talked about, but you can trust the results. So why can you trust the results? Well, you're vetting every single member of the panel, right? You're doing it through LinkedIn and maybe even speaking to them. But when you're doing one-off market research using an online panel company, we've already shown all these examples of how the data qualities really can be poor. And frankly, you're spending, what is your time worth, Marisa, or the team's time worth going through all of these different responses and throwing out 40%? What is that worth?
Right, that's huge, right? It's that's a huge component of it, like you're saying, the time. And I think there's still, a bit of question like, hey, am I catching everyone? Even though we have all these, rules and checks in place, am I catching everyone? Is this person like, people are tricky out there. And are you sure? And so while I think, and you said it, there's, absolutely there's a time and place for that and can't do without it. There are needs out there where you just have to use that scenario. But then going back to the custom research panel, like, just the confidence of knowing, hey, I know all these people are who they say they are. And, that goes a long way.
And look, we touched on this, and B2B and B2C are different, right? So if you're going out to B2C and there's an unlimited number of respondents and you don't mind, throwing out a lot and you still have a sample size that you can do the analysis, that's one thing. But on a B2B sample, typically those are hard to reach people. When you're throwing out 40%, you might not even have enough to do certain analyses or cuts of the data that you plan to. It can be truly a problem if you're throwing out large amounts of a B2B study.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Sean. Yeah, exactly. Like that is one, right? You don't have a lot of sample to work with,
right?
Which makes it even more valuable. Each pieces of that data, right? So valuable.
The second advantage that we've seen is there are cost savings, and we know the world that we live today, that's always welcome. So we're just to show you kind of how this might work, where you're seeing a lot of benefits from the panels is you don't have to re-recruit every time, right? So the recruit is done. And you may even save some time on design because you've already asked them about certain demographic information that you already have. Analysis, you might have some things set up. So you could be saving, if you're doing a lot of research over and over again, this does add up where you're not having to re-recruit every single time. You already have the people in the panel ready to go. You still have to, of course, provide them honoraria and things and incentives to fill out and provide feedback. But there is a lot of cost savings. And if you think of it as time savings, also, it may even be greater than this. We've touched on that, the time saving.
Yeah, exactly.
So the third one is, and this is like, I think really important, like, Marisa, don't you see this happening more and more? Clients saying, hey, I need something really quick. I need a quick turnaround on this, and I don't want it to be a big production, but I really need an answer to this question. Custom research panels really are perfect for this.
They are. As you know, I've had a couple clients recently that have said to me, oh, this is a rush. I need to get this so quickly. And we happen to have custom research panels for them. So the research was able to be very quick, turnaround, couple days in one.
This is an example of one that's much longer, but we've done ones that literally were a couple days, right? Not 6 weeks. I think in general, you're still saving time even on big studies. if you have a panel versus going out to the market for sample. But there are times when, somebody at the client's like, yeah, we need an answer to this question, and we are literally turning it around in days because we already have them ready to go.
Absolutely. I think that's completely true. And like you're saying, I mean, this, what you've got up here, yeah, I think this is just in sort of a regular scenario. It can be so much more agile. But if there's a need, then, for even something faster, it can be done. And like you're saying, you have, since the panel is, maintained, we're maintaining it, we're keeping it up to date. We know who the people are, know the targets. If it's something targeted, that's even better because you can quickly target folks that you know are appropriate if need be, and move even that much faster.
Right. I mean, we've been on calls together, or so where the client says, you know what, we want a specific segment in this market, right? Like, and that we have enough in the panel to do that, where first of all, the cost and time to find that outside would have been frankly prohibitive in the time frame they wanted it turned around in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fourth advantage, a simplified research process. So when we say simplified research process, it means when you have a research panel, custom research panel, you already pretty much have approval to do research because typically the client is committing from 6 months to a year. You're getting feedback back to stakeholders in a shorter period of time. And we see these as sort of culturally significant because it makes research part of the organization, right? Have you seen that happen, Marisa? Like where, since we're doing regular research with these custom research panels, the stakeholders almost expect and are looking forward to seeing research come in from them and feedback from customers.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think they're also, you become very aware of the business, maybe much more so than you would in a one-off. Maybe not, but I think that you become a bit more engaged with the client, and because you're doing so much research for them and with them, and it becomes more of a process where you're a part of their, you're a part of their team, you're helping them as much as possible. And because it's so much, I don't know, ingrained in whatever you're doing, culture, timing. Yes, like you were saying, the internal stakeholders then have a trust and a relationship and a rapport with you and the research panel as well.
So yeah, just to be clear, for the audience, typically the way these things work is, a client will engage PeopleMetrics. We'll help define what type of custom research panel they'd like to recruit. We recruit that, and typically we engage with that client on an annual basis to do certain research projects with that panel. Now, it doesn't have to be specified up front. It can be placeholders, but typically there's some commitment to the research. And what that does is that provides a truly customer-centric view of the business within an organization, right? People talk about becoming customer-centric. And I wrote this in my first book, Listen or Die. Everybody wants to be customer-centric. Nobody knows how to be customer-centric, or it's hard to know how to do that. What practically can we do? Here is an example of something very practical that provides a signal within the organization that the customer's voice matters.
Exactly.
And it's not a one-off. It's an annual commitment. And they typically will renew and renew and renew because they see a lot of value in this, and stakeholders start to rely on the information.
They do. And they see it as a great resource,
Yes.
They absolutely do. And they know, and it becomes well known within the organization often, as a resource that you can use if you're looking for, just some simple guidance, and it doesn't have to be a full-blown research study, or maybe it is, but it's still a resource that you have kind of at your fingertips that you can go talk to, rely on, etc.
All right, let's get to the last advantage, Marisa.
Okay.
Continuous access to insights. And this is one of the great things about custom research panels. It means that you're almost guaranteed, if you'd like, to have multiple points over the year where you're getting specific feedback from customers on a variety of issues. And it even can be the same issue. You could be getting a net promoter score quarterly if you wanted, or it could be a completely strategic issue every so often that you're getting feedback on, but it's coming consistently. It's not like we've done this research project and you're not going to hear from us again for another year or two. These insights are coming through continuously, which we found are super valuable for clients.
And I think even one more addition, if you do say you do some research and, it just begs more questions, you can go out and follow up on it to even just folks that you want to, right? It doesn't have to be all of it. You say, oh, that makes me wonder, like that wasn't as clear, or wasn't as clear as I'd like it to be. Hey, these people are right at your fingertips. You can go and ask them follow-up questions very easily.
That's a really great point. The last bullet on this slide too is a super interesting one, especially on a B2B context where, when you reach out to one B2B respondent, typically that might be a 15-minute survey. You're getting a lot more time with each person, aren't you? Like you might be spending several hours with this individual over a 6 to 12-month period, which first of all provides a much deeper kind of perspective on their experience, and two, provides them with more of a connection, I think, to the organization because they're seeing the organization spending a lot of time understanding what their views are.
Definitely.
So it's a really, I think, good thing. So we often talk about custom research panels as this secret weapon. We've heard this, right, Marisa?
Yeah.
This is an anonymous PeopleMetrics client. I don't want to share our custom research panel case study because our custom research panel is our secret weapon. But it doesn't have to be secret because other companies could do this too and do. But it's something that I don't know if everybody thinks about. I think it's kind of the default is, if we have a study, let's go out and get sample from an online panel provider and do it. Versus let's strategically think about, are we going to go out to this audience multiple times in a year? And if we are, especially if it's B2B, that's a really good use case for a custom research panel.
Yeah, and like you were saying, Sean, and I think it doesn't have to be completely determined what that research is going to be for the whole year, but it just needs to, you need to know that you're going to do some research, which, I would hope and think most organizations are doing research among these audiences. So like, yes, I know I'm going to do this research project, but I'm also going to be doing a bunch more. And I think right there, that just lends itself to a panel, to a custom research panel, just for the recruiting alone, and particularly with B2B.
Exactly. So thank you, everybody. I've written a few books. 2 of them are actually out in the world. One is coming. Yes, there's places you can follow us, right, Elizabeth?
Absolutely. Don't forget to click like and subscribe on the video, and click the notification bell so you'll know when we have new content posted. And then follow us, please, on Twitter, LinkedIn, and then you can look at all the other informative videos we have on our YouTube channel. If you want a copy of these slides, please email us at connect@peoplemetrics.com. And then if you click one more time, Sean, you'll see a QR code pop up and you can scan learn more to learn. And there we go. There's our QR code.
Yeah.
So you can scan that QR code to learn more about PeopleMetrics in general. So again, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time on PeopleMetrics Live.